Hello, hi, hello everybody. Do hope that you're well. Hello, and hope you're well. And I'm Bella if you're watching me for the first time. And most people know me as Bella the Secret Psychic, and I am live on Facebook. So if you're there on Facebook, do say hey, hi, and hello, because I've got you on my screen just over there. And if you're watching me live on YouTube as well, love to know how you are, where you're calling from. Do give me a shout out as well. And just bear with me. I thought I'd turn that down. So. I'm very excited about talking about today's subject, which is called Observation Matters. And pretty much I have talked about this before. In a way, it is trying to help everybody to understand how the law of attraction works. And I've talked about it before in a spiritual way. So if you have never seen those videos before, I have two on manifesting. I think one that's called Why Isn't My Manifesting Working? And one that's about, I think it's called How to Manifest. But this one is pretty much on the sort of same subject, but instead of looking at a spiritual aspect, even though there will be spiritual undertones, we're going to be looking at this from a very scientific point of view. We're going to be looking at this through the eyes of quantum physics. So that probably might have made a head go, what? That's okay. That's okay. Hopefully, I'm going to break it down so that you do understand what I'm talking about as well. So we can see a few people that are already here on Facebook. So let me just give a shout out. Hello, Bella. Hello, Bella. See where my brain's at today. Hello, Amy. You know why? Because I saw you say hi, Bella, underneath. I'm not starting too well, am I? We got Aurora, Suzanne, Dawn. Nice to see you there as well. And it takes a few minutes for this to catch up. So we got Nicole on YouTube, Nicole G, and Louise Robinson. Hi, how are you? And we've got Love My Roo as well, and Pam in Salem. Salem, wonderful. So dropping by from Ohio as well. So, oh, Las Vegas. Love My Roo. You were the first one, I think, a first person I've got from Las Vegas. So I'm really honoured that you are here. So, first thing I want to ask everybody before I start to talk about the subject that I'm talking about today is, did you create your day today? How many of you created your day today the way that you wanted it? If you did, put your hand up. Say yes or say no. Because it's important as we get through my talk today. But like I said, I'm going to be touching on why your observation in life matters, particularly when it comes to manifesting, particularly when it comes to the law of attraction, particularly when it comes to understanding that you are a creator and you are able to create the world that you want to have and you can love as well. So Amy said to the question, she's not sure if she created her day today. And Suzanne said, yep, ish, maybe. Dawn said yes, mostly. Great, fantastic. It's good. People are already creating their own days. Hello, Kirsty. Hope you're well. And hello, Google O'Donnell. Hope you're well as well. So we've got a lot to cover here, guys. So it's one of those videos that you might watch and then go, I don't know if I get it, because I say I'm talking some technical stuff. But if you don't get it the first time, just rewatch it. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is because I want people to understand how important this stuff is. Important for your own growth, important for you to be able to manifest and do things. So if I have to say it 6 different ways until it gets in, then I will say it in 6 different ways. So this is my third way now of trying to explain how the law of attraction works as well. Amy says her day has been weird. I had a lot of naps today. I think I needed them, and I don't nap during the day unless I'm ill, but I did have a lot of naps today. So we're going to crack on because I've got a lot to get through, my dears. So first of all, I want to, like I said, obviously whether you created your day, the reason why I'm doing it is because as people who know me, our thoughts are incredibly powerful, and as we go through this, you're going to see why your thoughts are incredibly powerful. As I talk through a little bit of science, a little bit of quantum physics, but also I'm going to show you a video also as well that should really help sow the seeds. I'm going to tell you some metaphors, because what we think we create. So when I asked you, did you create your day today? You did. Whether it was a good one, whether it was a bad one, you created your day today. We all did. We all create what our perception, our reality of what is happening to us. But what we find difficult to understand is how we can change it to the way that we desire, so that it's not so much of a challenge as we sometimes perceive it to be. And this will explain why in this video. Did you know also, even as you watch this video, even as you're watching me now, as human beings at a very cognitive level, we, let's say, lose our concentration every 7 to 6 times every minute. You know, the power to be able to fix on just one thing for a long period of time, we have to keep reminding ourselves to kind of pay attention. So even now, as you're listening to me, you'll be like, you know, every now and then having to prod yourself to pay attention. But observation, which I'm going to be stressing about in this talk today, is a discipline. It has to come with practice. And when I say to people, particularly when I say about meditating, or when I say about visualizing their desires or feeling into the desires that I've spoken about in my other videos about manifestation and law of attraction, that is part of the first discipline people have got to understand. How to observe, how to stay present, how to not switch off, and how to do that and train their brain how to do that. So I said that we were going to be talking about, obviously, quantum physics and what it is, and I'm going to show you a short video. It's only about 5 or 6 minutes, just to kind of kickstart this all off, because when you see the experiment that's done in this video, which is by Dr. Quantum, it's going to kick off the rest of the talk, but start sowing the seeds in your brain, so you start having your first, what I call, oh, I get it moment. So I'm going to play the video for you. Bear with me, because I've got to do some technical things to get it on, so that you can understand.
And here we are, the granddaddy of all quantum weirdness, the infamous double slit experiment. To understand this experiment, we first need to see how particles, or little balls of matter, act. If we randomly shoot a small object, say a marble, at the screen, we see a pattern on the back wall where they went through the slit and hit. Now, if we add a second slit, we would expect to see a second band duplicated to the right. Now, let's look at waves. The waves hit the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit. The line of brightness on the back screen shows that intensity. This is similar to the line the marbles make. But when we add the second slit, something different happens. If the top of one wave meets the bottom of another wave, they cancel each other out. So now there is an interference pattern on the back wall. Places where the two tops meet are the highest intensity, the bright lines, and where they cancel, there is nothing. So, when we throw things, that is, matter, through two slits, we get this, 2 bands of hits. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands. Good so far. Now, let's go quantum. An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through 2 slits, we should get, like the marbles, 2 bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. But we get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's even stranger. It goes through both slits, and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one, and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. But physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of two bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched. And it was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange, never world of quantum events. What is matter? Marbles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing.
So, that's the first part of what I want to talk about. So, just based on quantum physics, that basic premises of observing is what I want people to focus on today, because in my other talks I've talked about how we're all energy, just like atoms and particles are all made of us, our desk, the computer, everything, and like energy attracts like energy. But also in this, when it comes to quantum mechanics or quantum physics, it's also about what it is we cognitively in our human aspect observe greatly also as well. And something that I forgot to mention before I went to that thing, which I'm going to go back, because there's a reason why I had these pictures of these owls, and also why I asked you to create, did you create your day? I had two clients. There's two stories here. I had two clients who, and one of them was a gentleman who said, right, I explained this in a session that I had with him once. He said, right, tomorrow I'm going to ask the universe to make something happen in my day that gives me absolutely no doubt that I'm connected to source and that I have the power to create. So he set that intention, he meditated on it, and then the next day he got in his car and he started driving. Now, what was remarkable is he got his sign, let's say, he got his message that he was connected to source, that he is creator, because a hawk, which is similar to an eagle but is a little bit smaller, a hawk basically flew inside of his car, sat on his dashboard as he was driving, opened up his windspans and then flew back out again as he pulled over in shock. And then he contacted me and said, oh my God, this has happened. And I said, well, you can't be in any doubt now, can you, that you're special, but also that you're a creator. And then I think I've told this story before when I had a client as well. He said to me, I just want to have proof that, what I'm thinking intuitively, what I've said to her about an outcome towards the situation, about this gentleman, that it's, I just want a sign from source, from my guides, that it's going to happen. So I said, well, ask your own spirit guides, because whenever you ask your own spirit guides for anything, they will help you. They will help you to have the mindset that I'm going to be talking about today, which is about creating your own future, be observer and be creator, and how you can do it effectively. So she asked the guides for a sign, and I don't know when it was, whether it's the same day, I can't remember now, but later on in the evening, an owl, I thought the hawk one was a good one as well, but an owl flew into her room and then flew back out again. Now, what was remarkable about a bird coming in and why it was a sign for her not just the surprise of an owl coming in a room. The reason why she was so sort of excited about it is because actually the guy that we'd been talking about played for a football team that was called the Owls. So for her, it was an absolute sign. So there was two things going on there. It was how her connection to Source and how Source wanted her to understand that the situation was as it was going to be, but also that she had the power to create. So when I talk to you about outcomes, and even when I talk to other people, we have the power of our free will to set intentions. So even though something can be, if we don't like it, we can change it as well. And this is how. All right, so I'm going to quickly just go to where I was going to be. So some scientists, what they did to try to understand how quantum physics and spirituality kind of work together and what was happening in the brain chemistry in our human aspect, they said, let's study some monks. So they went to the Dalai Lama and they said, Dalai Lama, please send us 8 or 10 of your best monks, so that we can study what happens in their brain when they do certain things. And we're going to measure them against sort of lay people, people who just picked up anywhere. So what they did is they got these monks who had spent most of their lives practicing meditation, which is to focus on a single train of thought, or to quiet your mind, or to observe, or whatever it is, to think about one thing. And they started to study their brain. Now they were amazed. They were amazed because their frontal lobes of all these monks, which is the area of the brain that basically creates new neurocells, started to really light up and really fired up when they asked them just to focus on one simple thing. All they had to do was focus on compassion and nothing else. And that's all they did. And their brain at the front lit up like a light bulb. They did the same for people who were, never really practiced meditation, never practiced any kind of observing of any kind, and not much happened. Not much happened at all in the couple of hours that they asked people to do that. So they were like, wow, okay, these monks who've been practicing the power of observation, there's some activity that's actually happening in the brain. How can we do some more experiments to kind of capture that kind of stuff? And also they thought to themselves, well, if people who practice observation do this, and then we've got this experiment I just showed you, where actually when you're observing something, things happen at a very neurological, chemical and frontal lobe kind of way, versus when people don't do it. So they thought to themselves, maybe observation is a skill that actually we have to acquire, just like these monks have done. So hence, you probably know when I say to people, careful how your thoughts are, try to meditate, even if it's 5 minutes a day. It's because actually, just like a muscle, just like when I teach people how to develop their psychic abilities, it is something that you have to practice. Observation is a skill. And I'll tell you why as well. And we're going to just move on. So that before I do that, we've got Dawn says, mind blown already. I don't mean to blow your mind. The owls are cute. Like Maru says. Right. So what happens in our human aspect on our normal day, and I've talked about things spiritual in terms of the ego versus the intuition, but there are some actual things that when we live in our root chakra, when we live in our sort of human aspect, what the body and the mind pay attention to the most. They pay attention to these 3 things that I've got here that way on the screen, which is we concentrate on our environment, we concentrate on what our body is doing, if we're in pain, if we're not, if we're happy, if we're sad, and we also pay attention to time, how fast time goes, how slow it goes, to what time we have to do anything. Those are the 3 factors that we mainly sort of pay attention with our mind, is what we mainly observe, mostly. So with me. What we tend to not pay too much attention to is our consciousness, and how paying much more observation skills to our consciousness can open the doors to unlimited possibilities. Basically, scientists will call paying attention to your consciousness is basically opening the door to the quantum field, basically. So I'm going to tell you another story, another test that these scientists did, basically, from the monks, from the lay people, to kind of test out basically whether if you observe something, whether it can become something that you can learn to do, and then what happens again in the brain. So they asked some people to come in, and they said, we want you to learn how to play the piano for 2 hours a day. I'm going to give you the sheet music, and you're just going to practice the same thing 2 hours a day, and then we're going to test your brain. And then they asked another set of people, just come in, don't learn anything, just play around, just do what you want for 2 hours, come back the next day, and again do whatever you like. So of course, when they tested them in 2 weeks' time, they found with the people that had kind of just did what they liked every 2 hours, that again nothing changed in their brain chemistry. And I forgot to add, they tested them beforehand just to see how their brains worked before. So the people that spent 2 hours a day learning a dedicated piece of music, guess what happened? The front of their brain area lit up, just like the monks did. So they were creating new sort of connections in their brain. So they thought they'd do another test, because thought, okay, that's good. So observation or practicing something starts to fire off new neurons in the brain. So they said to another set of people, what we'd like you to do is to practice, but only in your mind, that you are learning this piece of music on the piano. But you must dedicate 2 hours to do this every day, and you'll do it in these conditions, and you might get bored because you know the brain switches off every few minutes in concentration, but we prod you. But for 2 hours a day, you're going to imagine that you're learning this piece of music. And guess what happened? 2 weeks after that, their frontal lobe lit up exactly as if they had practiced it for real. Now this told quantum physics quite a lot, again, when it came to observation, that actually in order for new neurons to fire in the brain, it had to have, or maybe believe, that there was a new experience that was happening, that actually even if it didn't happen, the fact of them practicing and learning actually opened new neurons and new circuits in the brain, basically. So it got them to sort of understand that basically knowledge, or the ability to kind of create and learn things, could be something that even if you just visualized it, you would set up things in the brain. Now, why is it important that your brain is convinced or believes that things happen? And I'll tell you why. Because our brains go on two things, which I'm going to explain some more in detail, but our brains basically, God, my brain's going now. I'm losing my train of thought. But basically, our brains go on the information that it's experienced already, basically. So it goes on the experience of what has happened to us in our past, or what we have observed with other people, but mainly what knowledge we've gained in our past, but also what we have experienced in our past. And every time we have any kind of thought, good or bad, chemicals are released by the neurons in our brain, and we get used to them. We kind of get addicted to those neurons, those chemical releases. So if we've had a tricky situation or a bad life, from our perception, we are used to the chemical releases that are released in that, and we don't seek out new neurons, we don't have new knowledge, we don't have new thought forms. So we kind of sit living in not our frontal lobe, but the rest of our brain, based on the experiences that we've had. So guess what happens when we sit and we think and live in our past, and the same thing kind of happens? We think, why does nothing ever change? It's because actually our brain, our thought forms, which create our existence, are living in the same memory banks. They don't know how to observe or visualize and learn how to create something new to make it new. So when we live in our past and we always reflect on what happened bad or what didn't work out, and it's still not working out, guess what we're perpetuating? We're perpetuating the same thing, that it's harder, that things always take time, that this person doesn't do this, or this always ends up the same way, I'm always last in the pile. Do you get me? Those repetitive messages, even though we don't want it, because the body is used to it, if we dare start to think another way, those chemical neurons go, what's she doing? Or what's he doing? You know, give us more of the good stuff that we're used to, and then start, you know, that's when your ego comes out and starts convincing you that you should give it more of its chemical juices that it wants. Do you get me? I hope you do, because this is deep stuff, guys. Elizabeth Jane says she woke up at 3:33 to come down and see this in Australia. Well, if that wasn't a sign, isn't that ironic? As we're doing this live as well. So I hope you get this. So we're going to get a bit deeper now, guys. Remember, if you're not getting it the first time, you can rewatch it, because this is deep scientific cognitive stuff to help you understand in a different way, but also just to show you as well how spirituality is proven also when it comes to some scientific theories and models and tests, so on and so forth. You get me as well. I'm going to take a breath because I'm talking a lot to write. So let's get to another thing. So our brains work on two things, which is knowledge and experience. And every time we have new knowledge or new experience, the frontal lobe of our area fires. Okay, so if you're breakdown in your car and you had to lift the bonnet, and then the bonnet was too hot and you kind of burnt your hands a little bit, and then you had to kind of look at the oil and you got grease in your hands, all of that experience, even you watching me now, you're soaking it all in. That's a new experience. If it's something you've not learned before, the front of your lobe will be kind of firing, because it kind of wants to adjust and make sense of the new reality that you're understanding from this information. Whatever it is you're doing, if you're learning to bake for the first time, your brain is firing new neurons, because it's like, okay, this is something different. This is something that's this person's not done before. I need to create a new reality around what they're doing. Quieting your mind by meditation or by observing just one thing, or observing the day you want to create or the life you want to create, firstly quietens down your mind, quietens down your emotions, so that things aren't firing off. It allows you that time and space to actually bring forth your new reality. So if we have new knowledge, if knowledge and experiences give us a new sort of, let me go backtrack a little bit. So if we are continuing to kind of live in our past experiences, so that's the experience and the knowledge that we're perpetually sort of, going on and on with, then we are only going to be firing off neutrons in our brain that on our thoughts and our feelings create our perception. That will be the same way. So if we start to concentrate and bring new ones, then guess what will happen? We'll start to create a new perspective. But it does take time. Hence why some people say, well, I manifested this and I've been doing it, for a day or two, or even a couple of weeks. Nothing seems to be happening. No, because actually, whatever age you're at, you've been thinking a certain way for a really, really long time. Hence why you've got to do it on a regular basis. Hence why you see some great practitioners who teach the law of attraction will say to people, write it down 55 times. Why? Because you need to rewire your brain into believing it is true. So repetitive action, most people learn something if they do it repetitively for 9 times. If they do it 9 times, then it sticks in their head, roughly. It's the same thing. Without observation and flexing that muscle in any area of your life, you don't develop it. You don't develop the new perspective. So, for example, if I'd been a victim of certain things in my life, and trust me, I have been, if I chose to stick in that past experience and not think that there was a better way to come out of that victim experience, then I would still be living that victim mentality, those victim experiences. Bad things will continue to happen to me, because actually I'm stuck in the loop of what is firing in my brain. But if I dare to believe, dare to imagine, and to just live in that faith, it's a bit like some religious texts will say, just believe and receive. It's the same thing. If I dare to believe and receive and start to visualize and fire new things in my head, then I'm not the victim anymore. I become the hero instead of my own reality. And this is what I'm trying to teach you guys, that you are creator. I'm trying to do it in a scientific way when I'm not scientific at all. But you get me, hopefully, as well. Hi, Tina. hope you're well as well. So again, on that premises of new information, new knowledge, I've got a picture here that is by Monet, famous, brilliant artist. And you see it's a beautiful picture. Okay, take a look at that beautiful picture. Well, did you know that Monet spent 44 years believing, but also as part of his work, he believed basically that most people didn't see reality the way that he saw reality, or how he was trying to see reality and how he was trying to paint reality. He had a fascination basically with light and light source. And so when he did his paintings, he tried to capture the light of the first thing in the morning, and the light and the merger of reality and the merger of energy, because he wanted people to have his perception of how he perceived reality, which is a blend of all energy basically. And as he got older, after 44 years of believing this and painting these beautiful pictures where he was trying to capture that for people to do this, and some people were getting it, some people weren't, he started to develop cataracts, which is actually, a massive clouding of the eye. And so his doctors at the time said, you're going to lose your eyesight, we can do this treatment, we can do that. And he said, no, I don't want you to do anything, because he said, I spent a lifetime to learn to see this way, because he actually wanted to see the way that he actually was trying to, for all of his life, to see reality, which was in this blended, clouded way, the way that he perceived light. So with that in mind, with that new knowledge, when you look back at this Monet picture, do you now see it differently than perhaps what you saw it before? And why would you see it slightly differently? It's because actually I've just given you some more new information that you didn't know about when it came to Monet and why he painted the way that he did. When we have more knowledge about things, we start to see our reality in a different way. Hence why I'm doing this talk today, because I want you all to get and understand that you can see your reality in a different way. When you see your reality, your perception, what you're creating, what you're firing off in your neurons, in your human but spiritual side, you are creating your reality. But with new experiences that you can only gain from observation, and observation of living in your future and not living in your past self, but daring to live in your future ambitious self, you can change the way you perceive things, and you can change your reality in comparison to how it is now. Are you still with me? I love thinking about this in a scientific way. Dawn says it makes more sense, it's easier to explain to doubters. Yes, it is. But I'm not here to preach. I'm just here to give you some information that you can either take or you can leave, but it's here to help you to manifest the desires in a way that I know will change your life. Hence why I'm excited about talking about this subject as well. So let me just to talk a little bit more science, so you know what happens to us when we're babies. When we're babies, all the neurons from 6 months start traveling to our brains, and for the first 2 years it starts carrying those neurons start carrying memories and experiences, and they release the chemical releases. But also we carry with us, when we're born, even when we're in the womb, the genetic pre-programming of neurons that we've inherited from our parents. About 50% of our experiences are basically generational, not just our parents, our grandparents, and evolution. So that's why we know how to have motor skills, and that's how we know how to, not. I'm trying to think of the things that you can do when you're a baby that you don't do. Like, you can grab onto things when you're a baby, and you can hold on really strongly, and you know how to suck, because that's an evolutionary thing that's been carried down in our genes and in our neurons through our parentage. But guess what else we get inherited from our parents as well? And I'm a parent, so I can say this, so I've genetically passed on some stuff to my son. But our perception of reality is what we also take in from our parents, their beliefs. So if your parent, oh God, had some alcohol abuse, you may find that you have an addiction or addictive personality. Or if your perception of your parent at the time was to be happy-go-lucky, that everything happened to them, you would carry 50% of those genes. but only 50%. Not the rest. The rest is pretty much down to you and nobody else. So again, when I talk about that other 50%, because you sort of inherited those genes, and if you think about evolution, you know, and how that works, if we'd all never, if it was always we genetically transferred 100% of things, then we would still be cave people. But because we have that 50% as is free will, basically, to learn new experiences, connection, we have evolved as a species into the state of where we are now. So that 50% is really important about what you feed it with. Again, you can feed it with, you know, past experiences, or you can just say, well, you know, I've inherited my parents' genes, I'm just going to turn out just like them, you know, and that might be a good thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but you know, but if you use that 50% wisely and don't live in your past experiences, and don't let the past keep manifesting, so that you can convince yourself, well, I know I come from a poor household, so that's it, I'm destined, or I didn't pass my grades at, you know, high school or whatever, so I'm just going to stay this way. No, you have that golden opportunity to become observer, to create your reality, and to start rehearsing from now the version of the life that you want for yourself, to practice it, to believe and then receive it as well. So that you use this opportunity, as you hear what I'm saying, to start practicing mindfulness or meditation. Did you know that meditation means to become familiar with? When you meditate, you're trying to become familiar with. You're trying to observe, basically. You're trying to observe. Why? So that you can quieten your mind from the past experiences, and to use that 50% to help you evolve, but the whole human race evolve towards being much more conscious and not so human, I guess, if you understand. So again, if you learn to practice visualizing the greatest version of yourself by feeling, having experiences, you'll fire new neurons in that frontal lobe that will start to get stored, but will also start to perceive the reality that's around you, just like those quantum slips. Yeah, what you're observing happens. When that machine wasn't observing, there were multiple possibilities. But when it was observing, the very thing going through one slit happened. So if you said to yourself, I want to observe that it goes through no slit, and you spent days focusing on it not going through one slit, then it wouldn't go through one slit, because that would become a reality, wouldn't it? And there are loads of experiments that you can watch on YouTube if you don't believe me, or lots of different experiments that prove that theory too, as well. So basically, if you keep observing the past, you'll just repeat the past. So start to dare to practice living in the future, so that actually that becomes the reality that you choose, and not what's happened in the past. Start to rehearse the greatest version of yourself. So I'm laughing at Susan, sorry. I see you on with my own TV show. You're brilliant, Bella. Oh, you're very sweet. Oh, I feel very blessed. Oh, and I forgot to say, because I'm going to forget, so I'm really sorry that this is a probably really weird time to mention it, but I wanted to say to my YouTube viewers, thank you guys for your awesome, beautiful, amazing comments that I've had for my May horoscopes. I'm so touched, like I've had a message every day. Like without getting emotional, I'm really, really touched about it. But also, guys, because I just reached my 2,000 viewers on YouTube, I only asked for like 8 people, because I think I was 8 away from 2,000. I was getting really excited, going, you know, help me get to 8. I've not just got 8, I've got nearly 300 more in a week. So again, I can't thank the universe and my thought forms enough, if I want to say it that way, for being, because people who know me know that I'm annoyingly optimistic. But thank you all, guys, for all your incredible support as well. I really feel blessed. So that was my I was supposed to say at the beginning and I totally forgot. So science is continually going on, exploring this all the time. It's exploring all the time, trying to prove how science is connected to spirituality, and how consciousness and matter, and we are creators. I could go on. Did you even know that, I think it's been around for about 7 years, just like you have those ECGs that measure the brain, humans have developed very similar. I forget what it's called. It's something conscious project, but they've created these basically an ECG for the planet so that you can measure and track events, and it has worked. So basically what it's trying to prove is how our collective consciousness also has an effect. And if you don't know what I mean, watch my video called We Are Borg and you know what I mean. But it has proven things. So for example, when 9/11 happened, so actually it's been further back than that, so it's been before 2000. When 9/11 happened, that measurement went off the scale basically because so many people became so connected to one event. But you know, when it all fired off, it fired off before the event actually happened. And every time there are quite large events that happen, wars or politics, this ECG that's like on the earth goes bonkers basically. And so they now can sort of timely predict, like a day or two, or even 10 minutes before, that something collectively, good or bad, is going to sort of happen, because actually the energy of people in a collective way, things are happening basically. So we are in the age of Aquarius. We are moving towards a new form of evolution, which is, yes, based in scientific stuff, but science is not going to become the new religion or anything like that, and nor is there going to be a new religion and, you know, or spirituality. It's just about us understanding the why of why we're here, the power of our awesomeness, our consciousness, our sourceness, our collectiveness, and how we use that more to our advantage as we expand into a realm of unknown when it comes to more quantum related stuff. If you still get me. So I would say here, practice observing, practice being mindful, start to visualize and rehearse your version of your greatest self, and don't wait for science to prove things anymore, because it will catch up. It has already. But the more we are doing it, the more that we are practicing and observing and then start living it, the science will come to you or me and say, how are you doing that? And you'd be like this. You'd be like, I learned something new, or I visualized and I believed in something new, and I meditated. I started to create my day. I started to create my life just by the power of thought alone. I started firing those neurons in my brain that started to make me believe. My brain believed that actually I could have the reality and not keep living in the past. I started to understand and believe and receive that I am creator. I am more than just what science tells me I am. That actually we're so much more. You know, we might be on a little blue spot on the planet, but the blue planet didn't just come poof out of nowhere. Well, some people believe that it did, but I like to believe that there's something more. I wouldn't be able to do the work that I do if I didn't believe that there was something more. And I'm asking you guys today to also believe that you can create more also for yourself as well. And that was me. That was a lot, guys, from even my brain to translate to you guys. But hopefully now you've had the two spiritual versions, and now you've got the scientific version to help you with your practicing. And if you didn't get any of this, just go back to it again. Or if you prefer the spiritual one, then please go and look at my video on manifesting as well. So, observation. Mystic Tarot says observation is the way of visualization. I feel this distinction is important. I feel mere observation is simply taking in what is in front of us, around us. It is a light of observation. It is, but I think what we also do is we tend to observe what is happening now and accept that that's the reality we have. And if you think about it like this, if people like Martin Luther King or any kind of, when I forget what they're called now, women who protest to get votes. If none of those people didn't believe in a greater version of better things happening, and I'm sure you can all think about political things that are happening right now, that if you don't believe in a better version, then there's no hope, is there? The same would manifest. And if it wasn't for people that believed so powerfully in that greatest version and then took action to make it the reality, then we'd all be living in a world that actually I wouldn't like to live in. And that continues to manifest, that continues to perpetuate. The more that we start to observe, yes, the greatness that's around us, but to observe even the greatness of more to come and do it with love and abundance, then actually we create a better world for us all. And I'm going to let you all go, and I'm going to go and have a nap again because I'm tired. I hope that that's made sense to you all. Thank you all for, again, tuning in, paying attention, listening to me. I do appreciate it. And I hope that's been useful in your attempts to manifest what it is you desire. Dedication, observation, and practice. Flex that muscle, and you can pretty much do it for anything you want in your life and to create. Okay? So, take care, everybody. I've been Bella, and I hope you all have a restful day. And I will speak to people on my Facebook page tomorrow when I do my daily card. Take care. Bye, everybody. Bye.